Hello there, students of economics, and welcome to this teaching module. This lesson is titled Open Economy, and as you can see, we're moving to the second part of the topic, Open Economy. In the previous lesson, we learned about what is an open economy, what is a closed economy, what is the balance of payments accounts, and the components of balance of payments accounts. Today, we will learn about foreign exchange. So stay with me and be eager to learn something new. In this teaching module, we will study about the foreign exchange rate, the fixed exchange rate system, the flexible exchange rate system, and the determination of flexible exchange rate. Before we set out to define what is foreign exchange rate, I would like you to take a look at this picture here. We have an Indian gentleman with his currency in hand, which is Indian rupee. And we have an American gentleman here with his currency in hand, which is the US dollar. In exchange for $1, the Indian gives the American rupees 72.92. This is the current exchange rate of the dollar versus the rupee as of 1st September 2020. Keep this in mind as we go on to define what is foreign exchange rate. According to Crowther, the rate of exchange measures the number of units of one currency which is exchanged in the foreign exchange market for 1 unit of another. In other words, it is the price paid in domestic currency to get 1 unit of foreign currency. So in the example, to get $1, we have to pay rupees 72.92. If conversely we want to find out the value of the Indian rupee, then we have to take 72.92 the other side. So it's 1 upon 72.92, and what we get is 0.014 US dollars. I want you to take a look at this table here. You have the Indian rupee exchange rates. You have various currencies of the world, like the US dollar, which is the currency of the USA, the euro, which is the currency of the European Union, the British pound, which is the currency of UK or Great Britain, the Australian dollar, the Canadian dollar, Singapore dollar, and so on. What we have in the last column here is the value of each of these currencies, 1 unit of each of these currencies in terms of the Indian rupee. So for 1 US dollar, we can get 72.93 rupees. For 1 euro, we can get 87.38 euros. For 1 Great British pound, we get 98.18 rupees. As opposed to that, we have the value of the Indian rupee in terms of these foreign currencies. So 1 rupee is valued at 0.013711 US dollars. 1 rupee is valued at 0.011444 euros. 1 rupee is valued at 0.010185 Great British pound, and so on. So therefore we see the exchange rate expresses the ratio of exchange between the currencies of two countries. It is the price of the currency expressed in terms of another currency. And so it is the external value of the currency. Before we study the fixed exchange rate system, let us set out to define what is the fixed exchange rate. Fixed exchange rate refers to the rate of exchange as fixed by the government and perhaps even the central bank of the country. Historically, it has two systems of exchange rate, one being the gold standard system of exchange rate and the other the Bretton Woods system of exchange rate. Before we move on to learning about the gold standard system and the Bretton Woods system, which come under the fixed exchange rate system, let us now define the fixed exchange rate. A fixed exchange rate pegs or fixes one country's currency to another country's currency. the government of a country doesn't let the exchange rate change in accordance with the demand and supply for the currency. So in this case, the government fixes the value of the rupee in exchange for other currencies of the world, or vis-a-vis other currencies of the world. For example, the Indian government may fix the value of $1 as equal to 70 rupees. Let us move on to study the gold standard system of exchange rate. According to this system, in 1929, gold was taken as the common unit of parity between currencies of different countries. Each country was to define the value of its currencies in terms of gold. Thus, the value of one currency was fixed considering the gold value of each currency. Here we have a chart showing the evolution of the international monetary system. So the gold standard started way back in 1870. Then came the World War I in 1914. There was a time of peace in 1918. And then the gold standard was restored again in 1925. Then you have the other systems, that is the Bretton Woods system, which came about in 1945. And then the managed floating system, which came about in 1973. Let's move on. Let me help you understand the gold standard system with the help of an example. In my example, we have two currencies. One is the British pound and the other the US dollar. Both these currencies are expressed in terms of their value in gold. For example, the pound is equal to 4 grams of gold. The dollar is equal to 2 grams of gold. So if we express the value of the pound versus the US dollar, how many dollars should we get for 1 British pound? Well, as you can see here, $1 is equal to 2 grams and 1 pound is equal to 4 grams. So for 2 grams, we should get $1, and for the other 2 grams, we should get another dollar. That means the 1 British pound should be equal to 2 US dollars. This system of exchange rate is called mint par value of exchange rate, or mint parity. Let us now move on to study the Bretton Woods system of exchange rate, also known as the adjustable peg system. Well, way back in July 1944, 730 delegates from 44 countries met at a place called Bretton Woods in New Hampshire, US, to come about and discuss a new system of exchange rate and they named it the Bretton Woods system of exchange rate. In this system, different currencies are pegged or fixed related to one currency, that is the US dollar. However, the US dollar itself was assigned gold value at a fixed price. The value of one currency in terms of US dollar ultimately meant the value of that currency in terms of gold. So you see here, every currency was expressed against the US dollar. However, only the dollar was expressed in terms of gold. Ultimately, indirectly, it meant that all these other currencies were also related to the value of gold. Now let us study what is the flexible exchange rate before we go on to study the flexible exchange rate system. The flexible exchange rate is that rate which is determined by the demand for and supply of different currencies in the foreign exchange market or the international exchange market. We express the exchange rate or the rate of exchange as a function of demand for foreign exchange and the supply of foreign exchange. In the formula that we see here, RE is the exchange rate. DF is the demand for different currencies in the international market. SF is the supply of different currencies in the international money market. Here we have a display board which shows the value of different currencies, and perhaps they change during the day. We have different values even during one day. And that is shown on a display board like this very often. Now we're moving on to study the determination of the flexible exchange rate. The exchange rate of a country's currency is determined by the demand for and supply of its currency, other things being equal. Having said that, let us now delve or study what are the sources of demand for foreign exchange. In other words, when do we demand foreign exchange? Foreign exchange is demanded for the following reasons. First, if we need to pay international loans, then definitely we will demand foreign exchange in the international money market and we will pay the loans. We cannot pay in our own currency, can we? We need to pay in the foreign currency. So we may demand foreign currency in order to make payments for international loans. We may demand foreign currency in order to give gifts, donations, and grants to the rest of the world. And definitely we can't do that in our own currency. We have to give them such unilateral transfer payments in terms of their own currency. If we want to invest in the rest of the world, be it the foreign direct investment or foreign institutional investment, we would need to demand foreign exchange. And so that would be another reason why we would demand foreign exchange. If we go abroad and we make direct purchases abroad from the rest of the world, we need to pay for such purchases in terms of foreign exchange. And so that would be another reason why we would demand foreign exchange. So it becomes a source of demand for foreign exchange. Lastly, if we want to take part in speculative trading in foreign exchange, then we would demand foreign exchange. For example, I may want to make a gain from purchase of dollars. I may buy the dollar when it is 70 rupees and I will wait for the dollar to rise to 75 rupees when I will sell it. So if I feel or there is a speculation that the value of the dollar is expected to rise via the Indian rupee, then I may choose to invest in dollars. And for that reason, I will demand US dollars. So that again becomes a source of demand for foreign exchange. Well then, what are the sources of supply of foreign exchange? In other words, when do we get a supply of foreign exchange? Supply of foreign exchange depends on the following factors. Firstly, exports of a country. When we export goods to other country, we get a supply of foreign exchange because they pay us in their currency. Secondly, when any other country invests in our country and there is a direct foreign investment from their side, then they will bring along with them a supply of their foreign exchange. Thirdly, if non-residents or foreigners make direct purchases of goods and services in our markets or the domestic market, then we will receive a supply of foreign exchange. In case non-residents, that is residents of the rest of the world, wish to make some money in our domestic markets and they speculate that they can make a gain, then they would bring their supply of foreign exchange. A very large proportion of supply of foreign exchange comes from remittances by non-residents living in foreign countries. Remittances means the income that is earned by our residents abroad. When they bring in or send in their money home, that income or money would be called as a remittance. So these are the sources of supply of foreign exchange. This is how we get a supply of foreign exchange. In order to help us to understand how we determine the equilibrium exchange rate, foreign exchange rate, we need to do it diagrammatically. So here we have the demand for foreign exchange is inversely related to its price. So therefore, the demand curve for foreign exchange is downward sloping from left to right, shown by the curve drawn in red. Secondly, the supply of foreign exchange in the international money market is an upward sloping curve showing the positive relation between price and supply of foreign exchange. So just like we learned in microeconomics, there is an inverse relationship between price and quantity demanded and a positive relationship between price and quantity supplied. So it is with the case of foreign currencies, the quantity demanded and supplied of foreign currencies against the price of the currency. So the price of the currency would be the exchange rate, in other words. So here we can see the demand curve DF intersects the supply curve SF at a point E, which is the equilibrium point. The rate or exchange rate at this point is OR, and the quantity demanded and supplied of foreign exchange at that equilibrium point is OQ. Let us learn how to explain the diagram. Firstly, you have to say that the exchange rate, foreign exchange rate, is measured on the y-axis and the quantity demanded and supplied of foreign exchange is measured along the x-axis. And then we can go on and say that DF is the demand curve and SSF is the supply curve of foreign exchange. Both these curves intersect at point E. The equilibrium exchange rate is ER. OQ is the equilibrium quantity where supply of and demand for foreign exchange are equal. Consider that the rate of exchange is $1 equals to 70. Say for example, if $1 is equal to 75, that means we need 75 rupees to buy $1. At this new rate, the demand for dollars is less, that is OQ2. However, the supply of US dollars is more, that is OQ1. Conversely, if the rate goes from $1 equals to 70 to $1 equals to 65, then at this rate, the supply of US dollars will be less, that is OQ2, and the demand for US dollars will be more, that is OQ1. Therefore, in this teaching module, we have completed the following. We learnt about what is the foreign exchange rate, what are the fixed and flexible exchange rate systems, and the determination of the flexible exchange rate system with the help of a diagram. I always like to end my class with a wee bit of value or advice. In life, we need to be flexible and adapt to changes. Nothing is static. We ourselves must change for the better and always do our best. Thank you students for giving me a listening ear. I would encourage you to watch the video again so that you get a better understanding of all the concepts that were discussed in this video. Thank you all and stay blessed.